Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Cambridge Union. Before we begin, a couple of warnings. Firstly, it's incredibly likely that strong language will be used over the course of the next hour. Second of all, if you're watching online, please do tweet us with comments or questions at Cambridge Union. Our hashtag tonight is CUSBlessed. I do strongly recommend you don't watch this online wearing headphones. Our guest tonight needs very, very little introduction, but I will give him one anyway. He's an actor, a presenter, and an author, but to a lot of people, he is very simply the man with the voice. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Blessed.
Hello! 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 Nice to see you. Gosh, it's great. Great to see you. Bum, bum, bum. I must say straight away, by the way, because of all my space training, because, I mean, there's no limit to my wonderful talents, and so I do wear these now and again. I have this double vision with the right eye caused by my space training, but in another 2 weeks, I better see perfectly. So I am at the moment seeing double Cambridge Union, and you look lovely. You look absolutely lovely. There, now there's only one of you.
Right, well, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
And thank you very much for coming.
Yeah. Oh, what the hell is that now?
Just to start off with, I'm going to go back in time a little bit.
Yes.
Everyone here will have questions about individual productions or
Yes.
plays, so I'm going to ask you about Brian Blessed, the person, rather than Brian Blessed in specific things.
Right.
I want to take you back to 1963. The scene is Richmond Park. I know you've spoken about this several times, but for the benefit of the audience and simply because it's Christmas, could you recount the tale of the baby, the Brian Blessed, and the umbilical cord?
Yes, well, at the time I was in Z Cars. Long before you were born, I was PC Fancy Smith in Z Victor 1. There was only kind of BBC One then and ITV. And we were getting 28 million viewers a week. So, I mean, I was incredibly popular playing Fancy. A man called Fancy Smith. Very sexy. Oh, crap. Girls should have fallen in love with me. I was absolutely gorgeous. And I had to do a lot of judo and things like that. And I was racing across Richmond Park. I had a little house in Richmond. And racing, I went there every day training with Brian Jacks. And I was on my own on this occasion. And after a while, I suddenly saw a woman under a tree, as you do, don't you? And she was under it. Please, help me. Fancy, she called me Fancy, not Brian Blessed. Fancy Smith, please help me. I'm going to have a baby. And I thought, bloody hell. So I went over there, her legs were open, and the head was already out, you see. So, I mean, I come from Yorkshire, a coal miner's son, and the war years, and there's only one doctor in the entire village. So it was nothing. We were always helping babies all the time. When I was 7 years of age, hold the leg, Brian, lad, and that will come the baby. So I was used to babies, and I went up to her, and gradually, I said, just breathe deep, breathe deep, breathe deep, and so forth. I took my jacket off, put it down, and I took my white shirt off, and it was terribly white. And so, yeah, breathe deep, come on. And gradually, screaming here, screaming there, gradually, it's like midwives. It wasn't the television program. I gradually got the baby out, which was a sweet little girl. She was Italian, the mother. And I got it out, and I laid it down, and the placenta, I got the placenta out, and then I bit it off and tied it into a knot, and then I went bang, bang, bang on the belly to get rid of all the clots, and I delivered this baby. And then, so I said, come, somebody! People in the distance, get an ambulance! And of course, eventually, they got an ambulance, and I put her in the ambulance, and she went off, and she was very, very well. And I've never heard from her since. But... And so, she was an Italian, is she here? No. But I delivered this baby. Aren't I marvellous?
Well done.
Yes, thank you.
But I know that the Daily Mail's struggling to try and get into... They're trying to find the person who you birthed.
If you can find her, yes, she's an Italian. Lovely, but it went perfect. Lovely baby. And of course, I remember licking its face. It did have a lot of...
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Why the licking of the face?
Well, it was covered in blood. I licked
Of course.
it, and then I put it in my shirt. I'm not a vampire. No. And then I put it in the shirt.
Good, well done. Just while we're on the sort of the rumour versus truth stuff, I've got three things.
Yes.
Punching a polar bear in the face.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that.
Yes.
There's no end to my talents, you know. You are looking at somebody very exceptional. I could have been your... For Christ's sake, I could have been your Chancellor. God, I'd have loved that. You wouldn't have been here.
No, they might not actually be aware.
No, you'd have been... I'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, tell us.
You'd been in the Antarctic. You'd been... Anyway, anyway, the polar bear, we were...
You had to be there.
What a fucking life. Anyway, it was a British expedition, 2006, a really good one. Empleman Adams, a terrific guy. We were headed off from Resolute, a British expedition, 11 of us, 3 women who performed the best. The ladies performed the best, and gradually we were within about 20 miles of the magnetic North Pole. Anybody been near the magnetic North Pole? Well, when you do go there, your hair stands on end with the electricity. Zzz, zzz, zzz. And it's been an amazing expedition. And of course, I mean, the global warming, well, it is taking place. And even then, it was only 5 feet thick. The ice, just prior to this moment, I heard this, and a kind of typhoon-type submarine broke through the ice. And it came up through the ice. And out came the admiral alongside us. You know, like it was like Red October. And out came the Russian admiral, and he looked at me and said, "It's him. It's him. Oh, say Gordon's alive." So I looked at him and, "Gordon's alive!" And I went aboard and sang the Volga Boatman with them, you know, yo heave ho, yo ho, ho ho, yo heave ho. Anyway, further on, we were camped. As I said, you knew you were almost on it because of the magnet. Because of in the south, the magnet comes out in the sea. But there it's very close to the North Pole. It's a harder route than the North Pole. And our hair was standing on end, my eye sacs and so forth, and my ski sticks all zizzing away. And that evening, we got in my tent. We'd been followed by polar bears. It's quite strange to kind of come out of the tent in the morning and find footprints around your tent. Anyway, this particular evening, it just zip, zip, slash, slash, slash. There was this great bloody polar bear, put his head through it, I went, ah! Bash, straight in his fucking nose. And ran off. If you're with, say, a rhinoceros or anything, even a lion, and gorillas hate it particularly, male gorilla, hit them on the fucking nose. And it worked. But of course, I particularly was also determined that I would scare the bastard because they'd got guns. And it's the polar bear's country. I don't want them shooting a polar bear. And that's why I saved his life. We didn't see him again. Great big bastard he was gorgeous. But right at the end of I'm so used to animals. I've disciplined teenage gorillas. They're wonderful. And the females, all female gorillas, are incredibly sexy. They're very, very very docile. And this is my body. And there's the hand of one of them. It's going, trying to get my cock out. No, stop it. It's a universal language with animals. Stop it. And then gradually after a while, this hand starts coming out again. Well, of course, when you see the male gorillas, their penises are about that big, aren't they? They're like lipsticks. So we are quite attractive to them. But the bull gorilla, of course, you learn, of course, we're an aggressive, dangerous animal, and there I'm talking to you now. My hand is coming out all the time, which of course is incredibly aggressive. And so with gorillas, you always keep your hands closed, and you touch them on the cheek, and gradually just touch them on the cheek. But the lovely teenage gorillas lovely when they're playing. But I had some friends with me, and they were knocking them about a bit. Quite suddenly, they'd hit somebody, and their legs would give way. And again, it works. And it's just a smack. Their mothers do it on a kind of 12-year-old gorilla, male, right on the edge of the nose. And then they start again, playing again. But I think I've experienced apes and things like this quite a bit. In South Africa, I was climbing Castle Buttress, and I heard this, help, help. I thought, there's a guy up there. A guy would carry an extra rope. Somebody in trouble up there. It was only a kind of scramble 4A route. I'm coming up. It's all right. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. When I got up there, I came face to face, of course, with a great baboon and his troop. It was him. I thought it was a kind of black man asking for help, but it wasn't. It was a baboon. He looked at me and he thought, you could see in his face, what the fucking hell's this? So my beard and my face, and that that I'm an ape. Once, and I will go on. When I was going to Everest Base Camp in 1990, I was talking to all the Sherpas deep in Tingri and in Tibet, and talking about the Yeti, this whole subject of the Yeti. And he said, well, yeah, I have seen Yeti. Baji, they call me Baji, grandfather. Well, I have seen Yeti. I have seen him. And we shot one. My father shot one when I was a little boy. So what did he look like? He said, he looked like you. And I think that in the 1990s and 1920s, they did shoot human beings, the Sherpas, because it was explorers out there navigating and doing all that and casing the whole country. And of course, they had great beards, and their hair was long down here because they're out there for years. If they came into a village, because Sherpas can't grow a beard, they're all smooth. So that was to them a Yeti. So I think to a certain extent, I do look like a Yeti. I have to say, by the way, I do love waking up in the morning and looking in the mirror and seeing my face. I absolutely love myself. I think it all starts from loving yourself. As Oscar Wilde once said, to love oneself is to have a lifelong romance. And I do love myself. I've answered you.
Oh, no, you fully answered my question. There's really no roots left within that. As we've talked about Everest, we might as well go on to that now. You've said in your career you want to do the most amazing things. You want to reach the summit of Everest. You want to go to the International Space Station by the time you're 80. Now, where are we at with the trajectory of all of this?
At the age, I'm starting off with space is difficult. At the age of 6, these are war years, marvelous years. I mean, we had steam engines. I was born in Mexborough and lived in Goldthorpe, halfway between Doncaster and Barnsley. A coal miner's son, and marvelous times where we lived. We had the Northeastern Railway, and we had the Mallard. I mean, I sank to my knees when I saw the Mallard in its Bugatti front. And blue, and the Osprey green, Peregrine, blue-green, and then red ones and white ones of the Mallard. And Scotland had a great train called Cock of the North, and Wales, the Red Dragon, and of course the Flying Scotsman. But they were marvelous years. So as a young lad growing up in all that, and having Poles in our house who were pilots, they were flying Spitfires in the war. I mean, it was bloody exciting. And at school, suddenly the school teacher said to us, well, there are other worlds besides our own, you know. There's one called Mars, it's all red. What? I mean, it hit me as a child. Another world? Like, besides the Earth? Because I thought the stars were just painted and put up there. And I painted Mars red. And from that moment on, I've always been heartbroken. I mean, we are still, I was with addressing NASA and all the top scientists and so forth, Zubrin and Golombek and everybody, and they love me because of my training and my love of space. And I say, what are you doing? I mean, all the kids up at the Space Center in Leicester are frustrated because they want to go to Mars. God, come on. Brian, we are still having trouble with gamma rays and cosmic rays. Oh, bugger it. Make friends with it. And I said to SETI, SETI, you're sending out the wrong signals. Send out an SOS. We need help. At the moment on the Earth, we need help. Send out the right message. And they love all that. Buzz Aldrin, I love having him alongside me. And Buzz Aldrin, when we did the Infinite Monkey Cage the other day, I've got Buzz Aldrin alongside me. And he had said, of course, a few months before, the next guy who says that I didn't walk on the moon, I'll fucking chin him. And of course, you get on your laptops and he does just that to one guy. And so I find myself addressing them, all the top scientists, and so forth. Now, I don't know. So in my youth, it possessed me. We had Flash Gordon in black and white with Buster Crabbe in the local cinemas. We had the wooden radio. We had the Lost World, the War of the Worlds. And we had all these wonderful science fiction films and Journey into Space. And I kind of, rather like Edgar Rice Burroughs, writing about Mars, sitting in my garden at 11 years of age, willing myself to go to Mars, dreaming of it. Could I? At the back of my mind. And then I read the Hotspur comic. I read about Marion Irving, who disappeared on Everest in 1924. The greatest expedition ever mounted on God's earth for courage and tenacity in Norfolk jackets, puttees. They went up there, 1921, 1922, 1924, and Marion Irving were last seen 300 feet from the summit on the northern side, and were never seen again. He was called Galahad Mallory. And of course, when Galahad disappeared, when he touched the Holy Grail, and Mallory disappeared just above the second step by the final pyramid, a great mystery. And even though they found his body, the mystery still remains. It doesn't answer anything. I can tell you one or two things in a minute of what I discovered myself about all that. Anyway, I read about it in the Hotspur comic, and the years went by, and I was a little child in Yorkshire, and seeing all these films. And then I did amateur theatre with Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard, Star Trek, he being the son of a milkman and me being the son of a coal miner. And my father removed 18 tons a day. They talk shit about coal mines. I mean, in Yorkshire where I was, deep down underneath us were tunnels, thousands of them, and 2,000 feet down, there's my father on conveyor belts moving, all these 16 and 18 tons a day, and they have coal hewers like him, and they have main gate rippers. Main gate ripper. And all of them, all the way through to Rotherham, and to Sheffield, and to Parkgate, and to Rawmarsh, all the way almost towards Bradford. Thousands of tunnels of men working down there. And there were no pit baths, so my father would come home covered in dust, and he looked like Hector at the gates of Troy, his little lamp. Hello, Dad, and the gas lamps. And he'd get into the bath, and I'd bathe him. His back was all purple with all the roof falls because he worked half naked. I was incredibly proud of him. And he played for Yorkshire on the weekends. He was opening fast bowler. He taught Fred Truman, probably our best bowler ever, Fred Truman, how to bowl his cutters. He said to Truman, bowl against the seam. Bowl against the seam against the Australians. It'll lift up and hit them straight in the face. You can always say sorry afterwards. And he would,
but it's interesting because you... Come on.
Todd, I did amateur theatre. You know, and both Patrick and I were secondary school boys from a C class. That's why I've always been part of my space. I've always been in love with Cambridge and Cambridge University. I mean, it means to me, I was here a few years ago, being quite uncontrolled, and then, you know, you selected me to have a go at being your Chancellor. And it was so wonderful. It was fun that day. We had fun here. And the balloons up in the sky in Goodyear's, vote for Brian. It didn't half worry Sainsbury. And I mean, we got about a third of the vote. There's no chance we would win. But you promoted me. I'll come to that in a second, for the fun of it. But not bitter, nothing. It was so wonderful to be part of it. A C-class boy, as Philip said to me, Duke of Edinburgh, you're lovely. I saw me for your energy and drive, and so, never mind. But the years pass, Patrick and I, it's amazing. You see, I don't think that nature cheats. No one like you, no one like you, no one like you. You've all got something that no one else has got, and you must be allowed to bring it out. And don't let the bastards grind you down. And Patrick and I worked on it. We had marvelous. You can do so much on your own. Then you need teachers to what have you got here? What have you got here? You got some bloody marvelous teachers and tradition and that wonderful library. All of this. You've got so much here. And Patrick and I worked at it. And eventually, we had lots of help speech. We had lots of help from teachers. Education and this. My father was injured, so I had to did my national service and things like that. But Patrick and I eventually, it was unheard of. It was unheard scholarship. Coal miner's son, Patrick there, son of a Vic Theatre School. It was unheard of, the GCEs or anything. We had nothing like that. We could only fill in the date at Wakefield, and we didn't think so forth. And then the principal there said, the drama advisor said, we're giving you both a scholarship. You can bloody act. You both can act. And so that was it. God. And I finished my national service. I was in the parachute regiment, broke my leg and all kinds of things. Well, it's a bit deformed now. How the hell did I get up Everest with a bloody foot like that? Anyway, we went to try. I could do the academic work, because at the Bristol, which is very good, so I could kind of really get myself educated. I was having Good Samaritans all the time in South York, a lot. And then there was the school, and then the Bristol Vic Theatre Company. And you weren't allowed to mix with the Bristol Vic Theatre Company. Then, because I put in my book about O'Toole, I can't stand bloody actors' books. I can't stand, I met Piers Brosnan the other day. They're very good. We had lunch together, and I met this actress and that. Oh, shut up, boring fuckers. So, but O'Toole in those days, they always write about, he slept here, and he had slept with somebody, or he fought somebody. I managed to get this relationship very early on with O'Toole. You weren't supposed to mix with the Bristol Vic Theatre Company from the school. But it became intertwined, O'Toole and I. And he was there with black hair, and a black beard, and a twisted nose. And he was an amazing Hamlet. And I've never seen anyone could use his body. He was treble jointed, more than that. Astonishing plasticity, voices within voices. He was an amazing King Lear. As he look back in anger, as Porter. He was astonishing. He'd jump off the stage and be in the auditorium for a second and shake hands with the audience, and then go back into the scene again. I've never seen, it is the finest actor, I mean, Olivia was my hero, but I've never seen an actor like O'Toole. Anyway, I was doing the Admiral in the House of Regrets Ustinov play at the university through the school where we performed. O'Toole was there, which we were incredibly excited about, and he came backstage and he came to see me. Hello. It's Brian, isn't it? I'm Peter. I'm Peter O'Toole. I said, you can call me Pete. Call me Pete. You work from strength. I work from fragility. Tonight you worked from fragility. It was fucking marvelous. National service? Yeah, parachute regiment. Bastards, weren't they? The paras? Not really. Horrible to the Irish, weren't they? Not me, not me. What were you? Navy. Is that a problem? No. Am I a problem to you? No, fucking this sudden, you know. I was Yorkshire schoolboy boxing champion. I was third Dan black belt, by the way. And he backed off a second. And it was this strange relationship. Anyway, he and I got to know each other. And he fucking backed off. And so anyway, one evening, I'll never forget, we were running at 3 o'clock in the morning from, any of you know it, Lee Woods across the suspension bridge and then into Clifton. And we met two professors, Professor Murray and Professor Josephs, great doyens. And they were crying. They said, oh, we've been to see Sir John Gielgud in The Ages of Man. Oh, he's wonderful. He has such a phenomenal grasp of the verse. Oh, he's wonderful. They were both crying. You must go and see him. You must go and see him. Bye-bye, you boys. Bye-bye. And they went off into the distance. And O'Toole looked at me and said, it's amazing, isn't it? They're so enamored with Sir John Gielgud, they fail to realize that you and I are both bollock naked. Anyway, I won't go on about O'Toole too much. In the fact, when I was in Patrick, we saw great actors. Harold Pinter said he took up writing and took up acting because he had seen Wolfert. To those of you who don't know, I'm sure you do, Wolfert was about my size, my kind of weight, and he was considered the greatest King Lear of all time. I played King Lear last year, and I based most of it on Wolfert. And he was and he was at Sheffield Lyceum doing Hamlet one night, Richard II, Richard III, you name it. And Patrick and I were in the front, and there was Wolfert, exhausted, and said, next week, I shall be presenting my Hamlet. And my good wife will be playing Ophelia. And a man from the back said, your wife's a bloody whore! And he replied, nevertheless, she will be playing. You couldn't face Wolfert, love. At the same time, when I was at drama school with O'Toole, there was a man called Robert Atkins. He was the old Robert Atkins. When you think about old actors from Martin Harvey, it's Robert Atkins. A lovely voice like that, all the time. And have you got good legs? You're playing Malcolm next week. He was like that. He was in charge of the Royal Shakespeare Company, and he was in Bristol at the time. And he 9 years in charge of the Royal Shakespeare Company, which was sponsored by Flowers Ale. And after 9 years, they suddenly said, I'm afraid we need someone else now. They're quite abrupt. We need a younger mind, and I'm afraid we have to sack you. You have to go. And it was as abrupt as that. And he said, but on the last night, would you mind making a speech? We've got the Lord Mayor there and everybody else. He said, of course I will. I'll make a speech. And on the last night, he was stood in front of the stage there, and the curtain went up, and he stepped forward, and he said, I've only got one thing to say. Flowers Ale is piss. And the curtain came down. So he was there, and people like that. With O'Toole, I worked with him quite a lot. I knew him over 50 years, and I had this strange love-hate relationship with him, and I've never known such... I mean, Oliver Reed, I twice had to kind of put him out. He was just a bloody drunk and a bully. A good actor, but a twat. Richard Harris was the same. Both good actors, but twats. But O'Toole was the original wrecking machine. If he drank, I mean, he could tear tapestries apart, tear buildings apart, attack people, take glasses to people's faces, and he always had hoodlums with him. I have never known a worse shit in all my life as O'Toole. And we had this relationship, this love-hate thing. And astonishing. I was once doing a film in Ireland, a country dance, and at the end the film had finished, and he came into the celebrations, everyone's dancing, Irish dancers, and he came in. The devil arrived with his hoodlums his torpedoes with him, and you'd never seen anything as wild he could fight. The bastard had veins like that. That's why he lived. His veins were so... And he came in, and he started wrecking the place. It was full of antiques. He destroyed the antiques. He frightened everybody to death. And the producers saying, oh, for God's sake, can somebody do something about this? Do something. And I'm in the corner now. And I said to Peter Perkins, his manager, stop him, because he was a big fighter. It's more than my job's worth. And O'Toole was blood red. His eyes were blood red, O'Toole. And I went forward. Oh, Peter, look at me, look at me, look at me. Look at me, Peter. Don't raise your knee. You'll never act again. Never, ever act again. I'll break every fucking bone in your fucking legs. And he looked at me for a while and said, you miserable fucker. And he walked off. And now this happened with Peter a lot, and so forth. But I have never known an actor have such perception about acting. I've never known an actor have such vision. I've never known an actor be so helpful and loving to actors. And when they're on their knees, he could help them. And I was, eventually, I acted with him in that final Macbeth. He phoned up. He said, I want to see you. I mean, he wasn't my friend, you know what I mean? I'd led a different life. I want to see you. I want you to play Banquo. Well, I want you to walk on the stage with me on that first night, and I'll be Macbeth, and I'll be this sick, strange Macbeth, and you'll be this heroic Banquo with long hair and big muscles and stand forward like a golden king. And when you and I walk on the stage at the beginning, the audience will stand up and cheer. Well, it was, when O'Toole failed, he failed. It was the biggest calamity ever in the history of theatre. It was astonishing. I mean, it was Macbeth in the stock market in New York, on the stock exchange. Terrible, the worst write-ups ever. Richard Briers, before he died, said, oh, Brian, love, you never praise the actors these days. You're so busy being an explorer and so forth. Don't you love us? And so I have to say that I think of all the arts, acting is the toughest. I'll tell you why, and requires more bravery. Because in opera, and I can sing, I've taught operatically, you can say you've got a sore throat. I've got a bit of a cold, a bit dry. In ballet, you can say, I'll just pull the calf a bit. But in acting, your face, your eyes, your nose, your heart, your soul is judged. And 90% of the time, you're shot down. And you have to have the courage to step onto the stage the next night or get in front of a camera. Requires great bravery. O'Toole was given write-ups like no God would have found it difficult to handle them. They were so dreadful. And they were murderous to him, for Christ's sake. His Shylock was 8 feet tall at Stratford-on-Avon. When he lost in the court scene, he fell like a skyscraper, bang, onto his face. His Petruchio, he taught Dame Peggy, comedy, it's written down at Stratford How. His Hamlet was mesmerizing and strange. You couldn't put your finger. The things he does, I mean, doing The Ruling Class, the film, The Ruling Class, fans, watch The Ruling Class. Have you ever seen an actor move like that in The Ruling Class? And so, I mean, Man of La Mancha, marvelous. Playing Don Quixote and Cervantes as well, and Kiana. Oh, astonishing performances. And suddenly he was shake. I'm being very dramatic. And anyway, I came in after many weeks of this, and he invited the critics back again, and they'd been worse again. And I came into my dressing room, and there was O'Toole, and he was on his knees. And he was on his knees, weeping. And he said, have you seen what they've written about me? It's as if the veins were coming out of his head, as if the whole of the head was open, the neocortex was hanging out. I said, "You're dying. I think you're dying, Peter. Come here." And I took him, and I hugged him backwards and forwards, and sang and whistled. "I'm going to go downstairs." I put him on the sofa. "I'm going to go down and tell the audience to go home." He said, "No, don't. I went down the corridor. He came after me like a dog on all fours. He gripped me, went onto the stage. It took 7 hours, his Macbeth that night. He had no voice, nothing. When I died as Banco, I stayed on the stage, and I held his hand for the rest of the play, thinking he would die at any minute. He didn't. He completed it. He completed the job. I have been in jungles, I have been on mountains, I have been everywhere. I've seen people die. I have never seen courage like that. O'Toole. So he's not somebody who got pissed or just had a fight. He did have a great demon in himself, and we were immensely close. I met him on the street shortly before he died, and I was doing I do all these voiceovers, don't I? And down to Compton Street, and there he was near, and he came towards me. "Hello." I hadn't seen him for years. "It's lovely to see you, Brian. You look great. You rough fucker." And he threw a few gentle punches because he'd almost died of cancer, as you know, the whole thing. And I grabbed him and slowly lowered him onto the ground, stopped all the traffic. They couldn't get through the traffic in Compton Street. All the traffic's there. Everyone's mesmerized. And I held him and held him. "Come on, you look lovely." Lifted him up. "You rough bugger." And he walked away, and he turned back. "I'm going to get an award from the Groucho Club. Bye-bye, Brian. Bye-bye." And that's the last time I saw him. O'Toole's, I write about in my book. I wasn't anticipating talking about this. O'Toole. On this level. But there it gives you an idea, and therefore when you go out, you know, when you've got to face all the rigors and this, that, and the other, you can win the day. All this time, of course, I was pestered. Would I please go and do the Mallory expedition? I mean, this is not the ideal figure for climbing Mount Everest at altitude. Bonington, everybody, for years and years and years. So I was 7 years of age when I read about Mallory, and this dream held on. Churchill said, "You've got to hold on, you've got to hold on. Never give in. Never give in. Never." And I held on. You've got to. I'm just going to talk about my sex life. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've got a fucking huge cock. Anyway, and then, of course, I became 15, 16, 17, 20. I was in Z-Cars. I was in 27 years of age. And then I was in I, Claudius, and Long John Silver, Treasure Island on television, and Blackbeard, and God knows all these different things I went through, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then suddenly, John Paul Davidson and I, we were trying to get the money left, right, and center. It was 500,000 quid to follow in Mallory's footsteps, to wear the same clothes. You know, I'd done Mont Blanc and things like this, but nothing on this level. And John Paul Davidson, the best documentary director in Britain, we tried very much to get the money. It was 175,000 quid for me, insurance. And so eventually the BBC said they would do it. And we went, "Yeah, shit, I thought we got the money." The BBC, "Make the bloody thing." They were so fed up with us, the Director General and so forth. We got it. We got a low-altitude team at BBC, and then we got David Bashir's and Americans and all that for the high altitude, you know. And then, of course, I realized I was 54. Even the great Reinhold Messner stopped high altitude climbing at 39. I'm 54, Christ. I've not been to Everest, the northern side, wearing Norfolk jackets and puttees, and I trained like shit, 10, 20 miles regularly, every second day, and everyone's alongside me and training me and advising me and so forth. We filmed everybody, and then we'd film Bonington, And Dalai Lama, bless me, like he blessed the 1924 expedition, is my age. When I met him, of course, when you do meet the Dalai Lama, is my age, you'll find that you are remarkably honest. You know, we can lie in silence without diplomacy. But with him, when I met him, you know, I said to him, I don't understand. How have you got on without sex? I mean, you're my age and you've got lovely skin. I said, I can fuck anything that moves. And he went, no one asks me this, people. It's always reincarnation. Sometimes I think of beautiful woman, and then I take a cold shower and increase my mantras. So that's how he deals with beautiful women. And so eventually we were ready to go to the northern side and to follow Mallory's footsteps. You know, not to find his body, but to pay tribute to these great climbers and their great ideals that not here, to a certain extent, we've lost today. And we're all ready now to go. And the BBC said, well, you haven't filmed, because Blessed is not frightened of anybody. They said, we haven't filmed Rhino Mesner. What? I don't want to meet Mesner. Oh, I'm a greenhorn. He's the greatest climber. Mallory was great, but Mesner was greater. Bonington says we bow to Rhino Mesner. First man to climb all 14 8,000-meter climbs. I hate meters. Climbs over 26,000 feet. First man to do it. First man to climb Everest without oxygen. First man to climb the North Face solo without oxygen. I mean, he's a phenomenon. The mountaineers are all in awe of him. And they approached him and said, we want you to film with this man, Brian Blessed. And he said, an actor. I don't want to meet an actor. Oh, shit. And then after a while, we said, look, he's being a servant to this expedition. He's pointing the way. You know, as Jesus once said when he was about to die, the disciples said, you know, when you die, who will be the leader? He said, he who is servant to the rest. It's amazing in life what you can do when it's not about you, always. Anyway, I was a kind of a servant to this thing. And Mesner said, I'll give him 1 minute. Shit. So we went to Austria, and he lives in a castle, this beautiful castle, you know. And we arrived there, and the BBC were all over the castle. I was embarrassed. Oh, Christ, I was fucking embarrassed. I was moving about. And I was hiding behind some rocks. And thank God he wasn't there. And then suddenly a car came up. And out of this car stepped Achilles. And we had drums on this moment. Vroom, vroom. Vroom, vroom. Vroom, vroom. And there he was. And I said, it's Reinhold! And he turned round, and he looked at me, and he strode over, he took me by the shoulders, he looked into my face and said, you can stay all day, you're as fucking mad as I am. And he wasn't. And it was the start of, he was there, and I filmed with him, I stayed with him for about 5 days. We got on absolutely marvelously. God, I feel like a bloody Yeti. I mean, a Martian in this.
Do you want me to? Hang on.
Yes, is that it? Anyway, shouldn't move about. The thing is that we went there in 1990. People said I wouldn't get. There's a change at 5,000 feet. There's a change at 10,000 feet. There's a change at 15,000 feet. 10,000 feet is Mount Etna. 15,000 feet is Mont Blanc. I'll be tired. What is not understood, and it may save lives, is that at 22,500 feet, which is very close to the top of the North Col on Everest, you have got 14 days to live, and then you will die. You die of lack of atmospheric pressure, lack of oxygen, gamma rays, cosmic rays, all kinds of things like that. When you get to 25,000 feet, you've got 5 days to live, and the curvature gets worse. And your blood congeals to the consistency of glue. And then as you get to 28,000 feet, you've got 1 day to live. And they said, Brian, at 54, you shouldn't be doing this. We had a great low-altitude team. We had a great high-altitude team. I was with David Brashears, who does the IMAX films. Wonderful man, and Sherpas, two great big Sherpas alongside me. If you want to describe the Himalayas, you describe it in one word: Sherpa. They love us. I'm an honorary Sherpa. I'm an honorary Gurkha. There's no end to my talents. Anyway. And eventually I got up the North Col, and I was on the top of the North Col. I'd been filming with Captain No, who filmed it in 1924, and I was shouting, "Captain No, I'm here!" in the film. Galahad about, I'm here! At 23,000 feet, they said I couldn't do it at 54 without oxygen. And then the next day, Brashears said, the giant alongside me had a heart attack, was protecting me. We'd done Makalu. And as he was being escorted down the north face, watch she pray. Listen to your heart pray. Listen to your breathing. For God's sake, be careful up there. The next day, I started moving up. Brashears filmed it. It's wonderful. And the weather was beautiful. You know, the night before, there was the Milky Way on the North Col of Everest, 23,000 feet, and blue and green and in folds. A meteorite's hit the 67-foot north face, like something from The Empire Strikes Back. And it's a woman. I could see as the sun set down its great couloirs in deep red, the great garments. It's a siren call of a woman. She's very female. I said my prayers to her. I never insulted her. So you don't insult Everest. Its name is Chomolungma, Sagamartha, Gidoin Lembo. Its real name, the Dalai Lama says, is Yankina Munkina Tankya, the turquoise mountain. And I started to move up. BBC cameras got on it with Brashears and two other men with him, two top climbers. Go on, Brian. The weather was wonderful. I knew that Everest loved me. Everyone was touching me. I had the Dalai Lama scarf around my neck. He touched. And I went 24, 25, 26, up to the first step, and then round by the second. We weren't allowed to be up there. We're only supposed to go to 23,000 feet. And at 28,000 feet, there I was at 54 years of age, and suddenly the Chinese came on the radio. You have to come down, said Mr. Ping. You big fat Mr. Mallory. You come down. We summons BBC another 200,000 pounds, or we arrest you. I said, well, come. If you want to arrest me, fucking come and arrest me. Fucking pricks. They think they fucking rule the whole of fucking Asia, the bastards. I, by the way, was the master of ceremonies for the Hong Kong handover. Worked that one out. Anyway, we got to where Mallory disappeared. And then we completed the film. We weren't allowed to go to the summit. We didn't have the tents. We didn't have the backup. The Americans had taken all their tents down. The Russians had taken down their tents. And so forth. And so forth. So we made a great success. The film, Galahad of Everest, it won lots of Grand Prix. It won an Oscar. Not for me, it's not my film. It's John Paul Davison's film. It won all these Grand Prix all over the place. And then the BBC phoned me up and said, you've got to go to Tenerife. You've won Best Actor at the Tenerife Film Festival. I said, what? I haven't made a film for about 2 or 3 years. No, for Galahad of Everest. I said, but I don't act in it. I fucking climb a mountain. And I went to Tenerife, and there was Kevin Costner for Dancer with Wolves, and Daniel Day-Lewis for Last of the Mohicans, and I was in the middle receiving this award from them. I had this award there, and I thanked them. I said, thank you so much. It's the best acting performance I've ever given. Thank you so much. And it was a piece of bone like that on a rock, and I took it home, and that night my Jack Russell ate it. Eaten by my fucking dog. But it won everything. It was absolutely wonderful experience. Since then, I've done Aconcagua, the South Face, and the Polish Glacier route. I've climbed all over Mongolia. I climbed Mount Kutin there, the highest mountain there, with a wolf. they are wolves, not dogs. And right in the kind of wilderness of Mongolia, I found it in Mars bars. They have a lovely wolf there, and it's a big ridge up Malkin, and I went up there with this wolf. And I went Mount Ararat in Turkey, and climbed it with a Turkish battalion to protect me from Kurdish bandits, and climbed up there. And I have always, you see, you have the Pol Kushna now, and you have Laura Tan. They're wonderful names, aren't they? And Peter Howland, and Mesner, you know. And I was climbing up, it was kind of rough weather, rough conditions, certainly about 18,000 feet, but rough conditions. I climbed Mount Ararat with them, and we got to the top, you know, right, and they danced all around me. And then through the mist, this man came towards me. How? I have watched you. No one is more suited for mountaineering than you. I have never seen a man climb with such energy and passion. I am Kushko, who is considered now superior to Rando Mesner. I am Kushko. And then he disappeared into the mist. And I've been through the mist of Tibet in a crack on a giant's death and seen Laura Tan. Hello! I am Laura Tan! How are you, blessed? I'm fine. I'm their fucking equal. Fucking great. There is nothing in this world you cannot achieve if you set your mind on it. I have a gift for altitude. I have a gift. It doesn't affect me. Totally. You know, I do have to say that, no, I won't tell that. No. My wife said, please don't describe the shit story, for God's sake. And I'll let you ask another question.
I have no idea where we are. Do you want me to help you put that back on while we do questions?
Can you hear me? Oh, no, fuck it.
No, but there's people watching online who can't hear you.
Oh, I say they can't hear me.
Maybe in a different country.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, just
I don't know.
We'll just...
I'll buy it. I'll buy it from you afterwards.
Right, well, while I'm doing this, we have time for some questions from the audience. I'm just going to not engage with you all for a while. Time for questions from the audience. There are mics, so who wants to ask a question? Yes, just down here.
Yes, my old son.
Oh, yeah, no, go then.
You're very well organised.
Thank you. Right, I'm just going to put this on you.
I've actually got, is this working?
Just talk into it, you'll be fine. We're having mic issues currently.
Yeah. I've actually got thousands of questions, but I'll ask
Yes.
that sums them up the most.
Yes.
I mean this is a compliment, but I think it was Aristotle who said that no great mind has ever existed without a hint of insanity. How much do you think that applies to yourself?
Did you hear that about Aristotle and insanity? I think Parkinson asked me a while ago, Brian, he said, are you mad? I said, I hope so, because it's the only thing that makes sense. I think that in the film Zorba the Greek, right at the end, Anthony Quinn is, suddenly, the Englishman alongside him says to him, Zorba, teach me to dance. And he said, you know, boss, I love you more than any other man, but you have to learn to be a little mad. I think it is very, very healthy to be known as mad. In actual fact, there's an amazing speech that O'Toole does in Man of La Mancha, in which he, as an artist in this cell, is condemned by the eggheads around him. They say to him, the trouble is, you artists, you people, you dreamers, he said, you're mad. You know, you're all mad. And what was it? He said, you never know what. You're mad. Oh God. You never see life as it is. And O'Toole, Cervantes said, shall I do the speech? And O'Toole, Cervantes says, life as it is A politician said it in Parliament the other day, that people never see life as it is. Life as it is. I see life as it is. Misery, pain, cruelty beyond belief. I've heard all the voices of God's noblest creatures, cries and moans from bundles of filth in the street. I've been a soldier and a slave. I've seen my comrades die in battle and die more slowly under the lash in Africa. I've held them at the last moment. These were men who saw life as it is, but they died despairing. No famous last words, only their eyes questioning why. I do not think they were asking why they were dying, but why they had ever lived. When life itself seems lunatic, who knows where madness lies? Perhaps to be too practical, maybe madness. To seek treasure where there is only trash. Too much sanity, maybe madness. And maddest of all, to see life as it is and not as it should be. I wish I'd fucking written that. It answers your question, I think.
Yeah.
Next question.
Thank you very much. You've clearly had an incredibly long and varied and very successful career. And I was wondering, what single piece of advice would you give to young people today who sort of dream of a career in the performing arts and in the theatre?
I did say that I feel, I'll repeat strongly, I do feel strongly that, as I said, there's no one like you. That you've got something that no one else has got. You might even totally surprise yourself at what you find is there. As an actor, you might find, that's my favorite part, that's my favorite part. But in actual fact, no, it's not. You're better at something else you soon discover. I believe that you're looked after. I think you have a guardian angel. I love that in the Bible. I've not got the words right. For ye have entertained angels unknown. And it's always that tramp who approaches you. Oh, repulsive. I was in Chamonix, and an old tramp came to. It was winter. Nobody was there. The empty streets. He was covered in vomit. He's on the floor, beard down here, covered in vomit. And I walked past him. Good luck, Brian. You'll be all right on Everest. Don't worry. You'll do fine. I said, I know who you are. And I'm quite sure it was an angel. That one, we do have guardian angels and have faith in it. I think that it's important to find silence. There's the loud Brian. But my biggest love in life, and I don't know many actors. The man I'm closest to is Kenneth Branagh. We have a father-son relationship. I've done 5 of his films. I'm the son and he's the father, you know. He's so bloody old compared to me. I'm so young. And therefore you do need a guide and a companion. And so I pride myself in the fact that I do advise Branagh on a great many things. So he gets a shock when I suddenly say I'm going to Mars. And how is that possible? And so forth. But I think that get as much help as you possibly can. And prepare and prepare and prepare and prepare and prepare as well. And seek solace in the silence, whichever way you approach silence, through meditation, etc. Another question. Yes. Is it there?
Yes, go ahead. Hang on, wait for the microphone, sorry.
If you had the chance to do either to do Everest again or go into space, they clashed. How would you decide between them?
Say it again.
Sorry,
if I had the chance
to go Everest again or to go into space, and they clashed with each other, how would you choose between them?
Oh, I go into space. I go into space before anything. My biggest love in life is space. Acting is a must. Good, bad, or indifferent, you must do it, or don't bother. As I said, an incredibly hard, difficult art. You know, it's no use like, the soaps are fine, but you can't pass your life in bloody soaps. Or T.S. Eliot passed my life in coffee spoons. You cannot pass your life in soaps and so forth. But my biggest love in life is space. I yearn for space. And consequently, which will help answer your question,
It's gone again, just leave it.
So consequently, since a child, I've always loved space. I want to go out there. We are the children of stardust, yearning for the stars. We don't just belong here. This earth, we have to protect it. It's imploding. We'll succeed. One mustn't be a prophet of doom. Don't worry about it, love. Don't worry about it. I'll hold it here. Look at that. I take back all I'm still about. What's this, a fucking Dalek's dick? So what I'm saying is, my biggest love is, we are the children of stardust, yearning for the stars. That's where we were born. We have a tremendous memory. Now here, I always, it's strange answering your question, saying love and so forth. You could not have anything more wonderful. Socrates would love to be here. Sophocles would love to be here. Pindar would love to be here tonight than this place and you wonderful people. I consider Cambridge University the creme de la creme, both architecturally and in soul and in mind, that it is on its own. Therefore, we have here very gifted people. We have doyens with white hair, and we have young men with gorgeous, elusive, gorgeous, happy features. So you have your education. Now, when you're born, you are born with a very white brain, and it gets a bit paler, it gets a bit darker, gets a bit purplier, and then it gets browns into it through the years and years and years. And therefore, we all know, your scientists will tell you here, that thoughts are material. You learn thoughts from your parents. You learn thoughts from your teachers. You learn thoughts left, right, and center. And wonderful. But eventually, so you learn your mother's thoughts, your father's thoughts, your principal's thoughts, your teacher's thoughts, other people's thoughts. What do you know? And there are moments in life when you suddenly have a peak experience, as Lasky says. You suddenly have a peak experience. Suddenly you know something. You might be making love. It might be music. You might be going for a walk. It might be a rainy day. Oh, I know something. And you're on fire. And you recall it. You recall it for the rest of your life. You suddenly start to remember this eternal memory. So ultimately, after all the education you've had, you must at the same time ask yourself who you are. What do you know? And your question was, my biggest love in life is space. And I feel that this is Mother Earth. And we terraform in the nicest possible way Mars. We found water there, etc., etc., etc. I find it the most exciting age. I wake up so excited, and then at times I still get heartbroken to think that after 7 years, Cassini and Huygens approaches Saturn and moves towards Saturn. And there we are, all the doyens on the days serene are pressing buttons, hoping, press button A, press button B. It was virtually like that. Will it split up and go to Titan? Huygens and Cassini go round Saturn after 7 years. And all the scientists are looking at it. And it does work. And it starts Huygens. And it sees on Titan mountains higher than Mount Everest. It sees great oceans and continents like Africa and South America. What would H.G. Wells have done to see that on television? And that fucking week, there was that much given to it and the rest was about Bill Roach fucking women in Coronation Street. And I find that at times hard to bloody take. You know, I want to kick him up the bloody arse. Because marvelous things are going on. But I love space. I feel that everything that happens in space is a chemical remembrance. We remember. We're remembering all the time. I do not, as I said to Dr. Brian Cox and to Zubrin and to all the other American scientists, I do not believe in the Big Bang. I've examined it carefully. We can't discuss it now. Zubrin said to me, the greatest rocket scientists in the world at the moment, though we have some brilliant ones here, Zubrin said, Brahma, Brian, came out of the lotus. And the Creator said, create the universe as you have done so many times before, but have forgotten. And Brahma comes out of the lotus and goes, this big radioactive breath at speed, not a bang, that's crude, a great creative radioactive breath. And at a certain time, it'll draw it in again. Brahma will draw it in again. This was a top scientist describing this. So it's so much to learn about the universe, but we are children of it. I don't think we've even started yet. We've got to go to Mars. We've got to go out there. We've got to go beyond the solar system. New forms of art, new forms of technique, new Olympics. You go and discover it. I'm urging all the scientists to do it all the time. I bollock NASA, left, right, and center. Get out there, for God's sake, you lazy fuckers. The European Space Agency have got more bloody vanity than a million actors put together. Stop arguing. Come together. The Earth needs us. We're part of Gaia. It needs us. We're going to get out there. There's so much forms of life. Everything that is in the realm of the imagination exists. It's a chemical remembrance. Another question. Yeah. Didn't think I was going to be this dramatic.
We did.
Did he hit you? No.
You've spoken quite a lot about your love for Cambridge. If the Chancellorship were to become available again, would you run for it again?
For the Chancellorship?
Yeah.
I love life. So when I do wake up and look at myself, I love life. Absolutely adore life. Animals and everything. Absolutely. I just ache with happiness all the time. It was a kind of, it was a fait accompli that a lot of the students here suddenly came forward with great enthusiasm and said, Brian, we'd like you to be the Chancellor. What? And I said, well, that's lovely, lovely, because not a chance, but that'd be great fun. And it gave me a chance to possibly get to that library and meet you. And to meet young people, because you are my religion. I'm not one of these old men or middle-aged men who is jealous of youth. You are my religion. I never age, and I'll never be fucking suppressed. Fuck 'em. But, where was I, for fuck's sake? And so, I'm sorry, I shouldn't get emotional. What was he saying? What? Well, being Father Christmas there, pausing for a reply. So it was lovely being here and meeting everybody and enthusiasing and talking to Prince Philip about it and all kinds of things. And so, but, I mean, obviously the grocer would get a few points and the politician would get sweet fucking Fanny Adams and Sainsbury would be made for it, because he's wonderful for the university in his own way. I don't agree with him about the International Space Station and things like that. You know, when he said, I think it's a waste of money, I said politely, bollocks. No. So we don't in that way. But therefore, I thought, oh, come and have a go. Let me meet you. Let me embrace you. So I found the whole thing a happening. I had one or two students saying, "Oh, I'd vote for you if you were more scientific." All my family are all chemists and scientists. Zubrin and I are like this. Golombek, the head of NASA. "Oh, Mars is wonderful. It's full of history, Mars. It's wonderful, Brian." Pillinger, before he died. "Oh, brother. And nice to talk to you, Brian. Oh, hello, Brian. I'm coming over, Brian. The select committee have just driven me off my fucking head." And I talk to all these top scientists. I mean, Hawking rings me up. Hello. Yeah, here I am. It's me again, Brian. They want to put me 60 miles in space. What do you think? I said, "Well, you're going to fucking die any minute anyway. So you might as well fucking go up there and fucking die." And he went, "Ha, ha, ha, ha." Brian says I'm going to fucking die. I might as well go. So as regards not being scientific, I talk to them. Brian Cox and I are going to do a series together, old Brian Blessed and young Brian Cox, you know. And every time he opens his mouth, I say, "Oh, bollocks, Brian." No, this, that, and the other. And, of course, therefore, space is my great love. What was I? I've forgotten the gist of the whole story. Well, I think so, that in the fact that I have had a romantic view of Cambridge, and romantic with realism and gravitas. I would have worked on your boats. You see, I have a mind that gets on with Zubrin, that gets on with Golombek, that gets on with Pillinger, that gets on with Hawking. So I'm delighted. That's why they love me. And I'm not in love with myself. Your boats are too heavy in the boat race. Have a look at them. I did the hell of a lot of boating myself. They're just a bit heavy. I've noticed they're sinking too deeply. The crews have got to be fitter. I'd fucking be right up their asses with love and drive. I can bench press 400 pounds at fucking 79. The boats dip too deep. They're too heavy. I would work at the Marlowe Society. I would get plays on. I would make Shakespeare. I would bring up the gifts you have, young people, everybody here. I would bring in Branagh. I'd bring in people. I'd get Jacobi to come back for a while, because he's the Marlowe Society. And I'd bring people in. I'd make films and televisions with you. And then I started CamVet years and years before you were bloody born. All those animals over there. I'd work with a scientist. I'd work with a library, because my biggest love in life is the Alexandrian Library and its history. And I come in and work amongst you, inspire you, find your separate dreams, and find people who could help you and help you in all your dreams. Scientifically, artistically, in art, in the field, in athletes, in rowing, the whole bloody lot. I'd have got up there, and we'd have had a fucking ball. And I started to realize that afterwards. Oh, actually, we could have had a wonderful, wonderful time. Because there is a tendency to make education senile. That's not the objective at all. And more than anything, selfishly, I would have learned from you. Educate me. I didn't get it. Help me. Help me with languages. We go making films everywhere. We make documentaries. We do expeditions. We go to Everest. We go to the South Pole. You must understand that a third of Canada has only been surveyed by helicopter. We do see Bigfoot there. We do see, and that 1/4 million square miles of Russia is completely unknown. Half of the lost world in Venezuela, the Great Tepuis from Iron Tepuy and onwards, are unknown. There are all kinds of places. I would get us working and manufacturing, like from Cameron, I'd get us so we can manufacture more, so we could go down to the Marianas Trench, 37,000 feet down, the deepest part of the ocean. In my book, I'm not saying goodbye at all, I talk about Katharine Hepburn, probably the greatest actress who's ever lived. And I did Trojan Women and played Talthybius in the film, directed by Kakianis. Sylvia Bougeot, Irene Papas, and Vanessa Redgrave, and Hepburn was Hecuba. And we developed a wonderful relationship. She was 30 years older than me, and we almost got married. We got on amazingly. Spencer Tracy had died. And at one point, she was praising Spencer Tracy all the time on the film. We got very bored with it. And Genevieve Bujour saw me on this white horse as this gorgeous Spartan. And she said, Brian rides a horse well. Spencer drove well. He could ride a horse, Spencer. Brian's got big arms. Spencer had big arms. And I thought, I've had enough of this. And just for a joke, I'm fed up with this because no one ever raised their voice with Hepburn. I've heard about all this and you and Spencer Tracy. His arms weren't as big as mine, and he couldn't ride a horse like me. I'm fed up with it. If you were here, I'd break his fingers and I'd break his arms and I'd break his neck. And she said, Brian, you've always been so quiet on this film. I never heard you speak like that. And I'll tell you something else. He gave you the evil eye, didn't he? I'm going to give you the evil eye. I want to buy you. She's 30 years older than me and much cleverer. Yes, you're going to buy me? How much will I cost? I said, well, I'm going to go to the Marianas Trench, and I'm going to swim all the way down 37,000 feet, and there's a pearl at the bottom. I'm going to pick it up, a black pearl, and bring it all the way back up again, and then I'll sell it for trillions, and I'll buy you with that. She said, you're good. You're very good. No, so what I want to say is this, that so anyway, I'd have gone for the miraculous in religion and scholarship and science. I am sick, as I tell NASA, as I tell the Interplanetary Society and everybody else all the time. I am part of Skylon. I'm working with Skylon in Abingdon. 7 spaceships for the moon, for helium-3. I'm there all the time. The person who didn't vote for me through science is not scientific, Brian. I'm with Skylon. I'm in the field. The C-class boy from a secondary school in Goldthorpe. Not bitter. I'm there. And I, therefore, would work. We have thousands of young people out of work in the sciences. I would go for that. I have the ability through love, and it's just been given to me, to go. I write my own script. Write your own script. And the other day, I was working on behalf of the elephants and the minke whales, and I went to number 10 Downing Street, and I was there, and I got to the gate, and there were the police, and I was half an hour early. I was meeting Appleman Adams and Bollington and Ranulph Fiennes and everybody. I got through, and I'm at the gates, and there's the police. I said, now then, you plebs! I'm a pleb myself. Hold these gates. Come on, you plebs. You want a photograph? Yeah, Brian. Oh, you bastard, you marvelous bastard. And I had a photograph with all the plebs. And then I moved up towards number 10. And they said, well, Brian, we can't let you in at the moment. We're waiting for the Prime Minister to come back from question time. But you can go and sit outside. And I sat outside. I was on the windowsill. And it's quite a lovely day. And after about half an hour, I felt these hands on my shoulder. Hello. Hello? Hello? Brian, isn't it? Yeah, yes. Oh, hello, Prime Minister. He looks about 16. How are you? Oh, he said, what are you doing here? Well, I'm here with Ranulph Fiennes and Appleman Adams, etc., about elephants and minke whales. But I can't go in until you go in. Oh, come in, come in. And he made me some coffee, and he made me an omelette. And then he took me inside, and there was the cabinet, all sat around a table, half of them. Oh, please say it. And I went forward, stood on a chair, stood on the table and said, Gordon's alive! And he absolutely... So, what I'm saying is, I look at him, I look at Putin, in my space training. And I go and write my own script. I have. So Branagh says to me, and I love shocking him because he's always doing this wonderful thing in the West End at the moment, this season of plays. Marvelous stuff he's doing. I've done 5 plays with him and etc. And we get on absolutely. I've got a little cabin and he sits in there with me. And I advise him and he advises. And I love to shock him. What are you doing next? Because he gets very frightened. I mean, Patrick Stewart always cries, "Oh, Brian, you're going up that mountain again. You're going to die. You're going to die." I'm not going to die, you silly old fucker. Shut up. And Bonington, I'm so sorry. And Branagh, so Branagh says, "What are you doing next?" I said, "Well, I'm going to Mars." He said, "Yes, of course you are." "It's a little red dot." I said, "Yes, yes. Look, I'm going to simulate it. I'm going to get the best microbiologists. I'm going to get the best geologists. I'm going to get the best climbers. I'm going to get the best inventors. I'm going to work with Zubrin. I'm going to work with Golombek. I'm going to work with the Russians at Space City. And I'm going to point the way to Mars and assimilate going there to climb Olympus Mons, 3 times higher than Mount Everest, the size of Spain, to point the way." Right. And I, really? So in the little hut, I said that. And then what happened? I went to Moscow. I did 800 hours space training. I convinced Putin, convinced the Russians, and I worked with them, Zubrin and everybody, and the whole space agency. I went to MiG-29s and MiG-25s. And I did Hydra, and I did the centrifuge, and then all other kinds of terrible machines and training, trying to shit in a chamber with no gravity, terrible, with 15 women with big tits looking at me, and moustaches. "Shit, Mr. Blessed, you must shit." "Oh, fuck off, go away." You can't shit when you're eating pills, can you? Oh, you're supposed to have a good shit with dried pills. Anyway, I did all that. Centrifuge a lot. Then we went to South America, and then we went to Reunion Island, and there is Terra, the great volcano there, similar to kind of Olympus Mons in shape. And we use special effects to show Olympus Mons above it. It's called Ascent of Mars Mountain. And there I had Steve Bell, and I had all the Americans and so forth. And they made Martian prototype suits, and they cost 25 million quid each. And the man who made the suits, by the way, made Predator in the film. That gifted man who made the Predator is making the suits for Mars. And we climbed all over the mountain. No one's ever climbed. And there it is, Brian, from a secondary school, suddenly, and with all the top professors, and Charles Frankel, the great geologist, and with them all. And we have little kind of tubes here for oxygen, because they have now developed this thing where you don't shit or pee, it's taken out of your body. And after a few hours of climbing, days of climbing, I said, "We're going to lose oxygen at this level. Where can we get the fresh oxygen?" And NASA said, "Well, Brian, it's a few degrees over there. Use your compass." I said, "I can't use a compass." They said, "You're a mountaineer and you can't use a compass." I said, "No, there's no magnetic field on Mars." And Zubrin went, "God fucking damn it! Here we are, all these fucking experts, and he fucking tells us the basic thing, there's no fucking magnetic field. We haven't taken that into consideration." And so the greenhorn, with a love of space, frequently puts them straight. They love my love of it. So I did the training there. I am now a fully trained cosmonaut, and I'm going to the International Space Station next August. And I'm 79. So, I sound a bit aggressive this evening. No, I get it from you. I get it from you. You're sitting quiet most of the time, but I get the passions from you. Don't forget, I believe in you. I'm here because I believe in youth. Would I love to be Chancellor? Since I was involved in it all and then thought about it, afterwards I thought, oh, I'd be a fucking great Chancellor. We would create miracles. Thousands of young people are out of work, and they're mainly scientists. I would work with the Prime Minister on that. I'd work with the government on that. I can sit and talk to them because I'm a child, which is great strength. Not childish, I'm a child. One must always be a child. Another question? Go on, Mielson. Yeah, you got it.
Sure. If you could pick out a point of failure or defeat in your life and how you move past it, what would that be?
If I could pick out a failure?
A failure or a defeat, and then how you kind of climbed, metaphorically, up that mountain out of it.
I've never had to face it. I've never been... I'm so sorry. I'm terribly sorry. It's a terrific question. But I've never been fucking defeated. I can't... Bollocks, no. There's no fucker like me, love. It's most reassuring to be in love with oneself. And I've never been defeated. I don't know what it fucking means. I know how to rescue people who think they've been defeated. And that's great fun to do. But I've never been defeated. Another question. Yeah.
We've got time for one more.
Yeah.
Who was it?
No.
Ah, there.
A lady. Go on.
So we just wanted to know, what animal would you be scared of punching in the face? As you've obviously shown no fear in the face of a polar bear, what else would you not consider punching?
Who would I... Say that again, sweetheart. Who else would I...
So what animal would you be scared to punch in the face? Or a particular person would you be scared to punch in the face?
I've in this kind of state that I am in as a human being, I've always adored... I do a tremendous amount of work for the wildlife and for Virginia McKenna with the Born Free and Whisper and so forth. I've just come back from Millennium Elephant Reserve, working with some of the great bull elephants who pick up trees and throw them when they're in musk, sexed up. And I can approach them. And I find, because I have no fear and love them, that even an elephant in musk will allow me to embrace it. I love snakes. I love puff adders and gaboons and reticulate python. I hate to see on television people wrestling with them and fighting reticulate pythons, etc., because they're frightening the snake, in spite of the fact the snake could kill them. I'm fighting all the time for the tigers, the Siberian tiger. I'm talking to Putin about it at the moment. And I just find I love all animals. At home with my wooden hut, behind the wooden hut, I've got about 7 big 20-foot stone giraffes and large elephants sent to me from Sri Lanka, models of them. And I've always adored animals. And I have no fear of them. When I hit the polar bear, was to save its life. And therefore, I do not find animals intimidating at all. The difference between, of course, animals as us is that animals know, and we know that we know. And I think that we have to protect them much, much more at the moment. They need us passionately. So I desperately miss dinosaurs. I think we all do. I love Jurassic Park, the first film, and The Lost World of Arthur Conan Doyle, Professor Challenger. I'd always wanted to play Challenger. I never, when I was cast, I wasn't free, because I think he's an astonishing person, Professor Challenger. Of course, in the book, which would have brought out in the film, maybe we could have done it, is that when they discover the Lost World, they destroy it. In Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. So in discovering some of these worlds, we can destroy them. But I think that in the end we are going to make it, and I think the animals are going to make it, and we're going to get there in the end. To fully flesh out my heart and soul to you, A short while ago, Patrick Moore died, of course. And I'd been with Pillinger, who died, of course, unfortunately, the Beagle man, who I thought was very successful. The Beagle was a great success, and so forth. And his inventions, of course, in hospitals are benefiting patients all over the world, what he invented. A wonderful man, Pillinger. But Patrick Moore died a short while ago, and just shortly before he died, he rang me up and said, would I come over and recite to him Lollington Downs? It's John Masefield. It's a stanza. It's very short. And I held his hands, and hello, Brian, and he was very weak. Please, recite Lollington Downs. We can't find it. I could not sleep for thinking of the sky, the unending sky, with all its million suns, which turn their planets everlastingly in nothing, where the fire-haired comet runs. If I could sail that nothing, I should pass through silence and emptiness, with dark stars passing. Then, in the darkness, see a point of gloss burn to a glow and glare and keep amassing and rage into a sun with wandering planets and drop behind. And then, as I proceed, see its last light on its last moon's granite die to a night that would be dark indeed. Night where I might travel 1,000,000 years in nothing, not even death, not even tears. And Patrick said, thank you, Brian. And he died the next day. It's Lollington Downs. I feel passionately, as I've said, that we're going to make it. Eventually, we're going to make it. And I'm going to do all I can to help it. I feel at the moment, with your help and the talent that you have here, that you go out into this world. You know, at the moment, that you might say to SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Life, that they're sending out the wrong signals, that they need to send out an SOS. We do need help. We are strange, so gifted, so evolved. But as we evolve, you know, that reptilian part of the brain is still giving us problems. The neocortex, of course, is the great, sudden, evolved part of our brains. There is inspiration, there is poetry, there is thought, there all our aspirations and dreams can be realized. But now and again, the reptilian part nudges in, and we have wars. It's a state. It's a misuse of energy then that takes place. But we're going to make it. But do tell SETI to send out an SOS. I do think we need help. But it's great being here with you. It means an awful lot to me, Cambridge, and to see such marvelous faces around you. I'll see you out there. Maybe we will, you know. Maybe I'll take Lord Sainsbury and kick him over the moon. And then we can join up. We've just got time and have probably 5 or 6 years and do something to help the Earth. But bear me in mind, you know, and I again say to you, you know, follow your dreams. There's no one like you. Follow your dreams and don't let the bastards grind you down. I want to say, by the way, This is the end. I'd like to give you a shock. I saw Wolfert as Lear. I was talking to the critics a while ago, a very good critic of the Daily Mail, a terrific guy. I said, oh, I hate when it's King Lear, and I've got to see King Lear. Oh, it goes on forever, and it's boring. And I've seen the last few Lears I've seen have been shit-awful boring, awful, and long. It does always need a bit of editing. He does repeat himself, Lear, far too much. Edit it wisely. And Branagh, you know, he has, like myself, we are slightly anti-Stratford-on-Avon or anti the National Theatre in the fact that the best Shakespeare is not done there. The best Shakespeare could be done here. All over the world, Shakespeare being done. The Australians, the Canadians, all of them, they're all doing it in their own way. I'm not knocking the Royal Shakespeare Company, but it's safe. I'm a National Theatre actor. I'm a Royal Shakespeare. We do need to get rid of the Royal. I'm a Royal Shakespeare actor. So Ken did his Macbeth, which is just under 2 years ago, brilliantly in Manchester in that church. It was shown all over the cricket grounds. It's shown in the cinemas. You know, I said to him, he asked me about Macbeth. Brian, what do I do with Macbeth? I said, when you see him, you don't want to get near him. When you see him, he's Terminator 5 at the beginning. You touch him, your fingers will bleed. Even his casual clothes are unfriendly. He is terrifying. And Ken did it wonderfully, like kind of electricity going down his body. When the witches see him, there he was. Wonderful. In a church in Manchester, for the people to see. Shakespeare's for the people. It's not for the National Theatre, it's not for the Royal Shakespeare Company. Shakespeare, the Blue Planet has had its author, and it is Shakespeare. 15,700 words vocabulary. He is here. And he belongs to us all. And so forth. So then I said, well, because I'd done so much, I've been going up and down Everest, having this gift for altitude and other giant mountains, and done space training, and had a touch of fibrillation. So the Russians said, no, we know exactly what to do. They put a treble, 4 big tentacles, 5, right across there, and so forth, to give me another boost to my heart for the things I want to do. So I have this extraordinary new invention in my chest. So I'm a robot. And so Ken said, I'm going to do Macbeth next. I'm going to do King Lear next. I said, well, yeah, everyone's bored by King Lear. You will do it in 2 or 3 years' time, Ken. Do your season, Leontes, and then move on to. Don't do him as an old man. Be careful. Don't leave it too late. And Lear is always boring. So I did it at Guildford last year. And I did it with a young company, young people like yourselves. And therefore, when I met the fool at the beginning, the fool's always very old, and the fool and comical. The fool I had was like this young lady, Beautiful, gorgeous. And I'm missing my fool at the beginning because I behaved so badly. And she appeared beautiful. Suddenly, through a column, she appears. There's a fool. And I took her at 79 years of age. And we kissed and kissed and kissed and kissed romantically. And then we danced and we moved. And then we became butterflies. Brrr, 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 together. We had this fantasy of a relationship, a young woman. And in the terrible scene where Lear curses them, you know, they always do it, what is it? Oh, you something hags. Oh, you horrible hags. I will do such things, what they are, I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth. You know. Oh, yes, it goes, and the Lears always go, oh, you unnatural hags, I shall do such things, what they are, I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth. That's how they do it. And Ken came to see it, and Ken said after 6 weeks, I'm not going to fucking play it, when he saw me. Yeah, you do it your own way. Shall I do that bit for you? Yeah. Okay. I can't remember the words there. Anyway. Oh, you are natural hags! I who do such things. What they are, I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth! Oh! That's it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's it. This seems an appropriate moment to end. But before you go, sorry, I'm just going to reach underneath you, because that was meant to be under my chair, not yours. As you are such a lover of Cambridge, and as Cambridge is such a lover of you, we thought it appropriate on your visit here to, on behalf of the Cambridge Union, award you honorary membership.
Oh,
So,
marvellous! Jesus, that's great! I was hoping I'd fucking get something.
there we are.
Oh, that means more to anything I've ever received. That means more to me than climbing Mount Everest. Thanks ever so much. I'm deeply grateful. I'm deeply touched. I think you're wonderful people. You've got the best university. Fabulous. I just bow to you and honor you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you!